Here in Washington, D.C., there are literally hundreds of buildings, housing associations, and lobbyists, each representing various segments or groups of the American population. That leads us often to believe that politics all consists of different interest groups who have different problem perceptions and different things they want people here in Washington to do. Well, that's not necessarily the case. We recently aggregated over 5,000 interviews we conducted between January and May and put together the answers of those 5,000 people to the question, what's the most important problem facing the country? And we found that while there are some differences by groups, they're not as big as you might have thought. Let's look first at whites versus blacks. Certainly, you might say, there are big differences in the problems perceived by these two groups. Well, perhaps not as much difference as you might think. The top two problems for both whites and blacks in this country are the same. They are the economy and jobs. Now, to be sure, the order is a little different. Black Americans are most likely to say jobs, and white Americans the economy. But again, something to do with the economy is at the top of the list of both whites and blacks in this country. Now, for whites, below the economy comes the federal budget deficit, then problems with government in general, and then gas prices and health care. What about for black Americans? Well, below jobs and the economy, health care, we saw that on the list for whites, perceptions of problems about wars that we may be in, and then problems with government and Congress. Again, that was on the whites list as well. What about age? Well, certainly there must be differences between seniors and very young Americans. Well, these differences may not be as large as you might think. Look at 65 plus Americans, jobs and the economy, top two problems. Now let's go down to under 30 Americans, 18 to 29, jobs and the economy, the top two problems. Same problem perceptions at the top of the list for both older Americans and those who are younger. Now, among older Americans, certainly we may see concerns about Medicare and Social Security up at the top of their list. Not so. Look at the list in front of you. After jobs and the economy, it's the federal government's deficit, then government and Congress in general, and then health care. Only 2%, as a matter of fact, of 65 pluses mention Medicare specifically, and only 2% mention Social Security. So those are simply not perceived as top-of-mind problems. What about younger Americans under 30? Well, again, federal budget deficit, health care, war, education. These are the issues that flesh out their top five. But again, the economy is at the top of the list of every group in American society, regardless of their demographic or political or even regional orientation. I'm Dr. Frank Newport, Gallup's Editor-in-Chief.